Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury and trust in me to honor the free we all should be in. Sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, rain left me and you.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Tattness podcast. My next guest today is a continuation of the last one, actually. And she is from the same film, The Beast Beneath Lake Bullaren. And this is... What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness podcast. My guest today is a continuation of the last one. It is another guest from the film, The Beast Beneath Lake Bullaren. And it is none other than Helen Brunestål. And I sincerely hope that I'm pronouncing these names right, because if not, well, I'm just a stupid Canadian, so I'm trying my best. Hopefully I didn't butcher it. We had a great conversation, man. Check it out. This is the first show I've ever done where it was two guests like that are in the same building, so it's just kind of a transition. It's convenient. I'm getting spoiled here. I'm going to have to request this from now on.
Yeah. It's more convenient, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. Normally, when I have two people, one after the other, immediately it's like, man, I can't go over 1 minute because someone else is waiting then, and then they get kind of impatient, and it's like, uh-oh. So, you know, you got to kind of know with certain people when to wrap it up a few minutes early. Because they take 5 minutes to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, I understand.
And I hate rushing people, so this is cool because it's like, well, I just got to go in another room and get her. So it's it's quite convenient, man. I can't get used to that because I'm getting spoiled now.
Well,
so how's things been filming? I was just talking to him about that, and you know, he's having a blast with it by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I had a blast as well. It was both crazy and all new to me. So much to take in and much to keep in mind. Problems to solve, things to catch, and yeah, lots to do.
No doubt. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin with all of that. That's
well, Jonas said he thought I was natural because I have administrative skills, so it came quite natural, some of the stuff for me, and it was always good because Jonas was around, so please help.
Right. It's always a lot better of an experience when you know you have kind of that safety net. If something goes wrong, you have someone with experience that's like, don't worry about it, I got this, and having that help, because then you get to be a little more creative and like experiment a little bit and not fear like, if I screw this up then there's no fixing it. It's like I do a lot of art. I was telling him because he was saying he's seen my art, and I was like, you know, telling some people before on the show, it's like I got into digital art and, you know, but I mainly do everything by hand. But now I like doing some digital art for my clothing line and things like that. And the thing that makes me comfortable with experimenting, because I don't know nothing about computers, man. I'm an idiot when it comes to that kind of thing. So having that undo button if something goes wrong is such a blessing, because now I'm like confident enough to experiment, because if I screw something up totally, just hit undo and it's gone. You know, so it allows you to kind of be a little more free with experimentation. So
Exactly.
So it's kind of the same thing, right? You know, having somebody, just like doing a show, I have a producer that if I blow something completely technology wise, at least she'll figure it out. I don't know what I did.
Our safety net. That's what it is.
Exactly. You know, it's nice to have. It makes things a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and easier to be, as you said, creative. It's more freely.
The only way you learn how to do things is by experimenting and figure out, you know, what works and what doesn't. So, you know, whereas doing things by hand, art wise, if you screw it up, that's it. There's no fixing it. You know? So it's a little more nerve wracking, but that's what's fun about it, I think.
Absolutely.
So you've had a bit of experience doing this now, filming and things like that.
Yeah, with this first movie for me.
Yeah.
That's the experience, but I'm not new to film and to the concept of film. It's always been a big interest of mine. So when we got together, Jonas and I, we discovered quite soon that we had a lot of film interest in common. And in my younger years, when I went to our type of high school, we were a bunch of kids that sat together in a very small room, much like this one, with a TV and a VCR, and looking at all of those 80s classics today in horror and adventure and everything, Indiana Jones and so on. So we came from the same earth, so to speak, within movies. So we have very much in common, and that was made things much easier to understand one another and understand what he wants in a production and so on.
I immediately just get along with people that love 80s horror movies because I grew up with that stuff, man, and I love it. And it's so funny to go from that to now having a lot of the actors from those movies on my show and being able to kind of talk to them about their experiences. I just got
great. I envy you.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
I just got a really cool book in the mail recently from my friend Mick Strawn, who was the production designer for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. And he just put out a book about his experiences on set and all the things that went wrong, all the things that that happened. There's pictures in it, there's stories and everything. It's really cool, super cool.
Yeah, it is. Before this movie project, we went through, I think, 4 or 5 hours of behind the scenes materials of Jaws, the first one. And it was great. We just loved it, every second of it. And hearing those people telling us what went wrong and how to do or how not to do and everything, it was great. So I understand very much of Jonah's passion for producing because there's so much exciting things going on in a set.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people is as much as you love a movie, I think the people involved making it, for them, a lot of it is more about what you don't see, that they experienced, that, they'll remember that forever. You'll have those cool experiences that you'll never forget. And that's what makes it so rewarding on top of seeing the finished product.
Yeah.
And, that's what I love about doing this show is these are experiences that now I've got a video and audio forever, it's out there forever that I can go back and watch it. I've had really cool guests. Just last night I had Dig Farish on from Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. And I was like, that was cool. Super great guy and good conversation. And it's like, man, I remember going to the theater to see that, when it came out. Literally the night it came out. And now here I am talking to the guy. It's like, this is cool, man. And I think that's what life is about, is experiences, because no one can take that from you, man. Material stuff, material things come and go, money comes and goes, but memories like that and experiences are cool.
Yeah. And they don't weigh heavily on you. It's light to bear, and you can always remember things you have been through. And you often learn a lot from it as well.
That's right. And that's why I think traveling is so important, because of the experiences. You'll remember going to some new place and seeing how beautiful it is. Like Jonas was sending me pictures of, how beautiful the set is. And I was like, and like I was saying to him, I bet the pictures don't do it justice either. I'm sure it's a lot nicer in person. It made me want to travel. I was like, as soon as this whole thing is done, man, and the borders open up again, maybe it's time to go back on the road and start doing this,
because you see all these pictures of really nice places you haven't been to
Uh-huh.
yet, and it's like, well, now I have an excuse to go.
A lifetime is a short time to live all those things you want to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree completely. So I think it's important to make it a point, you know, with all the money you spend on like material garbage, it's like put that towards traveling. You know,
Yeah.
it's more important. You're going to value it more. You're going to remember it. You know?
Yeah.
So
That's one of the things I think is very rewarding in what we're doing, because you're meeting so many exciting people and they have so much to tell you, and you can learn from everyone. And it's just one of those great things, as you say, travel and getting to know different people.
absolutely. That's what another thing I love about this show is like I get to talk to so many interesting people every single day. Yesterday I had 3 shows. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Yeah, it gets busy.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you know, I had Jimmy Starr on my show yesterday.
Yeah.
Who's a friend of mine, of course. Love the guy. And now tomorrow I'm on his show, like literally on my show. He booked me for his. So I was like, man, it's just hectic. Even he said, he's like, I don't do as many shows as you do, man. I do like 1 or 2 a week. And you're doing this damn day, like multiple times a day. But, you know, you don't turn down opportunities. I take nothing for granted. And, you know, any chance I get to talk to interesting people, of course, I'm going to jump on it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm lucky like that. I get to do that. So you never, you know, turn it down because you may not get the opportunity again. So,
yeah, so true.
It's a rewarding job, man. It's fun, you know? And it's weird to be able to do it from my, you know, location and not have to like travel to do it. And it's nice to travel, but it's nice to not have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things Corona have taught modern people, is you don't have to go around everywhere. There's lots of things nearby that are very good as well.
Right. And I mean, it's great to travel, but it's also nice that if you can't, there are ways to get it done and to still experience that and talk to interesting people. Yeah. I mean, it's not every day I get to talk to somebody that created a friggin' sea monster, you know?
Oh.
So, he told me the size of it. I'm 6'5", so it's the size of 2 of them. So that's why I told him.
It's a big fish or monster or whatever.
I told him, I said, whoever has to fight that damn thing, I'm glad it ain't me, man.
Yeah.
That was me.
It's a big guy, the one who's going to fight it.
But that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's got to be a part of the child in you that still exists to do this for a living, creating sea monsters for a living, you know? Absolutely.
When I met Jonas and those kids that sat in a room, there's actually a book written about that. And it's the in-between story, because my old friend is an author today and a journalist, and he knows Jonas as well. I didn't know my friend knew Jonas, but he wrote about me in this book, and he also interviewed Jonas. So he has 14 pages. So when I met Jonas, I felt like coming back to that old room where we sat and had such a lovely time and watched all of these movies, and it arose the child in me again, and that feeling from those years.
I love that. I mean, that's so important. I think that's what keeps everybody young too. You know, and keeps people healthy, because it reduces stress to at least have a piece of, you know, that time when life was easier, you know, life was a lot simpler, less to worry about. Yeah. And, I mean, somewhere down the line, I feel like a lot of people forget to have fun in life. Yeah, that's true. I always say you have to be a little crazy. You have to. That makes the fun in life. Absolutely. You know, you can't take everything so seriously, because none of us are getting out of here alive. You know what I mean? So, yeah. You know, that's my advice to people, man, because you ain't going to get out of here alive. So have fun, build the damn sea monster once in a while, you know, be a kid again, and, you know, have a blast, man, because before you know it, it's over.
No, so true.
And
you don't know when.
Yeah, regret is a terrible thing to carry.
Uh-huh.
So, if you get the chance to do something fun, man, jump on it. Don't hesitate. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people get anxiety from and things like that, is they're not focusing on fun enough. And I get, for some people it is like a medical condition, mental health thing. But I think it could alleviate some issues if people stop stressing so much and just start having fun, and stop viewing fun as like ridiculous or something that isn't logical. It's like, dude, people do this for a living, like people get to make these monsters and stuff for a living. Like, it's fun and it's a job, so why not do it?
Yeah, Jonas and I were talking about it because he loves Halloween and my daughter loves Halloween, and it's not such a big commercial holiday here yet. It's growing. It's been here for, I think, 15 years or something. But we were talking about within Ranrike Studios, that's our company, to have a ghost walk. And have some props and so on. I think we have the resources to make it a great walk. So
that is so cool. I love that. I'm a big Halloween fan myself, and that's why I decided for the whole month of October, this is what I was doing. I was getting guests that are from the horror industry, or ghost hunters, things like that, anything related to Halloween season. So every show will be Halloween themed. So people that love October will enjoy that for the entire month. And I've got so many people coming on, like CJ Graham from Friday the 13th, who played Jason in part 6. Friend of mine, he'll be on the 16th. And a bunch of other people from the industry, and I've already had a few people, and it's super cool. I was telling them I went through so many people now from your movie that you guys are number 2 and 3 of my guests that are involved.
I heard.
That was a cool conversation. What a sweetheart she was.
Yeah.
So she was kind of telling me how Halloween wasn't really a big thing there, and you guys have your own tradition. I thought it was really cool to hear about.
Yeah.
Sounds fascinating and beautiful, really. And we kind of touched on how Halloween was, really is a commercial type thing. And she was talking about how she was a little resistant to welcome it when it started to head your way, but now she likes it. But
we had people dressed up for Easter when I was a kid, and we went sort of trick-or-treating. We had handed out small cards, Easter cards, and you got to get some candy in exchange. But that wasn't that much fun because you couldn't be creative of what to wear. So the kids nowadays have just put a stroke over Easter and threw it in a bin, and wow, Halloween is better. So it's much better, I think, and you can be creative and do whatever you want. I think that's the biggest appeal with Halloween for me. To have fun.
That's exactly it, right? You get to be creative. You get to have fun with it, and it's really cool to see other people's creations and how they, the things they come up with, and then it kind of inspires you for next year, like to outdo yourself. And I love that. And kids love it. I mean, kids have a blast with it. So,
that it's for me, it's very important to create memories for the kids, because that's what keep them through life. If you get them good memories from your childhood, then you can inspire other people to do more, I think.
Absolutely. And with this ghost walk thing that you guys wanted to do, of course, it leads to the question: have you had any like weird paranormal experiences that you remember?
I have always wanted to have one, and Jonas is quite sensitive to beings, And I think talking to a few of his friends, they told me that's the problem, because you want it too much. Okay. And then you can't be sensitive. And we were at my mother's summer camp, and we went to an old house. There's no one living there anymore. And on our way back, there was an entity standing beside me. Jonas didn't see it. It was like fog, but it was a person. And when I turned around to look at it, it was gone.
Wow.
And there was no fog at all that evening. And we went 50 meters ahead, and it was a clear night, starry skies, and warm weather. And suddenly I just stopped, and Jonas looked at me and just, what happened? And I said, it was so crazy because I was in the exact same spot, but I was in a thunderstorm, a very large and angry thunderstorm that just came over me for a split second.
Wow.
And it felt like I was reliving someone else's experience.
That's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the first two in one night I have had.
It's interesting too, hearing that people that want it too badly are the ones that don't end up because of that reason. And then you also hear on the other side of that coin, people have to be open to it in order to experience it. So there's got to be that right balance, I guess. Where you can't be over eager.
No.
But you have to be open-minded.
Yeah. Well, I've had another experience. That is where I used to live. We had quite a lot of cats. We had 4 or 5 at most. And when the first cat died, she often slept in my bed. And I was sleeping in my bed several times, and I thought one of the other cats jumped into the bed. And I pulled myself up to stroke the cat. And I felt the cat walking in the bed and tramping, but there was no cat there. So I think it was the old mother cat who came.
Wow.
Just missing being around.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's I've heard stories like that before about cats, and it's like once they get attached, man, I guess that's it, you know.
Yeah.
But I've got 2 cats that are clingy to me all the time. So one will cry at me every day, multiple times a day, until I pick her up and hold her like a human baby.
Okay, so sweet.
So her belly's up, and I just like every day, multiple times a day. And then when she wants down, I put her down, and she cries at me to pick her up again. I'm like, you literally just wanted down. You're driving me insane. So
just like a human baby.
Right. So I can only imagine, you know, that's going to be a ghost to deal with when the time comes. It's crazy. But I love stories like that because it's so fascinating. And it definitely makes you have to, you know, keep an open mind, because once you hear things enough times, or you see a few things you can't explain, it's like, okay, there's something going on.
Yeah. Well, I think, why shouldn't there be something going on? It's the most natural thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be something after this, right? You know what I mean? I don't see how anyone could possibly believe once you're gone that it's just that you're just gone and there's nothing else. It's like, then what was the point of all this?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
It's ridiculous to me to think that, you know, you're just here until you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems
crazy thought.
Right. It's like, then what's the point? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I have a child who passed at 2 years old.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. So every once in a while, my cats will start getting really weird.
Yeah.
It's usually if I'm having a conversation about him, or, you know, things get a little heavy, and, you know, they'll start chasing something and looking out like they're chasing something, playing with something.
Okay.
And then I ask them what's going on, and they'll look up at his picture on the wall. and they'll start crying at something like they see it and I don't. And you just all of a sudden you just get hit with this feeling of like it's all okay. Don't worry about it. Like don't sweat it. Let it go. You know what I mean? Like don't torture yourself over it kind of deal. It's a comfort. You know what I mean? Feeling of comfort, and they freak out every once in a while.
Yeah.
And they'll I've had it several times actually. I have a tattoo because the condition that my son had, the symbol for that rare condition is a bumblebee.
Okay.
So I got a tattoo of a tribal looking bee on my bicep for his memory. And every once in a while I would have like one of my computers would crash and it would boot back up, and it would open my email, and it would open right to the email of the picture of the bee that I sent to the tattoo artist.
Oh, wow.
And it's happened like 3 times.
Okay.
And that's
not a coincidence.
Right. You know, very strange. And then I went to a new tattoo place that I haven't been to before, and I was hoping, like I was kind of like paranoid because I was getting his name done on my forearm, and I was like, this is the one that I really care about. They cannot mess this up. And I was like, I hope they're as good as I think they are. And when I walked into their new shop, it was brand new. Like they had just painted the walls. There wasn't much on the walls yet. The one thing that I saw when I sat down that they did have was about this big. It was literally a lawn ornament of a bumblebee on the wall. And I was there to get his name. So I felt confident. And she was one of the best tattoo artists I've ever had work on me. So it was kind of a sign of like, hey, everything's going to be great. She's going to nail it, and it's going to look awesome. And she did. She did great. So it was just kind of funny, you know.
It's very beautiful.
Weird little signs if you pay attention. They're always there.
Yeah, I think that's the key. You have to be open to see them.
Absolutely.
The different signs.
And I think that's kind of the same thing as what we were talking about. If you want signs too badly, you can make everything into a sign, you know. Like you know, you could fabricate the stupidest things like, oh, it's sunny out today, and the sun came out a few times while he was alive, so it must mean something. Like, you know, it's people can get ridiculous with it, but if you pay attention and not actively go looking for little things, you can actually see what really is a sign, and it's kind of crazy. Well,
it's been like that for Jonas and me. I think you understand we are a couple, and at the beginning, and for several months, there were just sign after sign after sign that we belonged together. It was like he was living in the house where my mother held her first wedding party.
Oh, wow.
It's the same house. And there was just things like that all the time. We went to the store and talked to a friend of mine, and we talked to her about 8 or 10 minutes. And later in the evening, I got a text from her, and she just asked, "What was your new friend's name?" I think Jonas. Jonas, you have to answer this, because she was asking, wasn't he the guy who lived in the Gothenburg old parts in the 80s and 90s? I think we went to a lot of parties together. So it's turned out they had known each other for quite many years when they lived in Gothenburg, both of them. So it's been like that all the time. Small connections.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like there's I feel like that is definitely an indicator that somebody's trying to tell you this is meant to be, because there's connections to everything, you know, that's important to each of you. And that's really cool. I think that in and of itself might be somewhat paranormal in a way, for lack of a better term.
And we probably met before. We went to the same clubs for dancing in Gothenburg in the 90s, and we probably saw each other then, but we didn't take much note of one another. But here we are 23 years later, getting together.
That's awesome. I mean, you know, it's a shame when people don't see those signs or pay attention, you know, because I think they're missing out on something that's intended for them. And that's a shame to me. That's sad. So it's cool that you guys caught that. And you know, some people write the whole thing off like they don't believe in signs and things, and it's like that for me is doing yourself a disservice. You know what I mean? Because there's always a reason for them. And so I guess in a way you had more paranormal experiences than you realize, because that in itself,
maybe.
You know, a little bit kind of along that line, I would say.
Yeah. But it maybe the part was missing for me was Jonas, because when he entered my life, I started seeing all those things.
Well, there you go. It's like a you know a catalyst for it. You might see more things, you know. I love the idea of like ghost walks and stuff, because even here in Canada, we got a few places that are allegedly haunted and pretty interesting. And I could see certain places when I look at them, I'm like, I could see that. That, you know, that place looks creepy as hell. There's something not right about it. At one point, I lived in the Niagara Falls area, and walking along to the mall, this was really bizarre. There was a house that looked just like the Amityville horror house. It had those creepy windows. Yeah. You know, the little quarter windows. And the really bizarre thing is right next to it was a church. And I was like, they know what's up. They're keeping that house in line. You know?
Shush.
You know,
but Sunday we're having sermon here. Shush.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just keeping the church close by to baby. Yeah. Very strange house to walk by. You just looked at it and you're like, screw that place, man. There's something.
Yeah. That was interesting, because when Jonas first moved here, and he went to visit me, and I heard about him being a horror movie producer. I said, I know where we're gonna go, and it's a place a few miles from here. They had in the early 1900s children from Gothenburg, mostly boys, that weren't behaving. So they sent them to this house, and it's still standing. It's fresh and everything, but it's not painted. It's not taken care of. So it's really a creepy house. It's very tall, and you can imagine all the things that have been going on there. I don't think the personnel was very kind to the boys that were there. And there was a small closet up in the attic that wasn't much more than that you can sit down, and that they put the children there for bad behaviors.
Oh no. Yeah, so there's got to be something unhappy there.
He just, wow, we have to do a movie here.
Right. One of the most fascinating things that I've ever heard of happened kind of in my own backyard, basically, so to speak. Because I was born in the Toronto area. Yeah. And way back, there was an experiment done in Toronto with a university and paranormal experts that created an experiment with a group of people. And what they wanted to determine was whether or not thought forms are real. So what they did was they created a story about this being that didn't exist. Okay. And they gave him so much backstory, so many details and everything, that it started to actually manifest. Wow. So everyone started claiming that they were seeing the ghost of this person that they fabricated. There's no, they created this tragic backstory where he had a fiance that, you know, died, and he took his own life, and they described what he looks like. They gave him a name. They gave him all this. And it seemed like the more energy they put into this being, the more it started to actually come to life.
Creepy.
Right. So they wanted to find out. And then, like I was telling my producer yesterday, the thing that's very interesting about that is look at how people talk about the law of attraction, where if you know, put all your energy into believing in becoming successful, it will happen to you. So many people really believe that. It's the same idea, but they manifested the ghost, allegedly, of a character, a person that never existed. And that's strange.
Yeah.
You know, the more research I've done on that, the more bizarre it is.
Yeah.
And then we got into a conversation about like that character Slender Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done research where back in like ancient Egypt, there was pictures of something that looked exactly like that.
Wow.
Leading children off to the woods.
Uh-huh.
And families upset because they're watching their children being taken.
Yeah.
And it seems over centuries, this thing keeps manifesting. And everyone thinks it's some new thing that hit the internet, that was fabricated on the internet, but it's not.
No.
And then if you look at the creation of Freddy Krueger, for example, it's the same idea. If you take away the power that you gave him by believing in him, he has no power at all, and he dissipates until there's nothing left. And that in itself is a thought form. It seems to be a concept throughout the ages that we have believed in as people. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. We have an idea for a series of movies or a TV series or something. It's gonna be called Summer Kids, because we have the local population and we have the summer guests that come here, and we're gonna make a mix of those. So local and foreign or summer vacation kids getting together, solving things. And we actually got the idea from a rune stone that's standing close to a church, not far from here where we live. And it's a very unusual rune stone because it's not from the Viking era. It's much earlier.
Yeah.
And it has a text that is written in Latin, which is not the usual language to write in. And they don't know where it originates from because it was found in the mid-1800s as a bridge of a creek.
Okay.
And it talks about a magician. So it set our fantasy spinning. So we're going to create this story from that runestone and about a few of magicians that Jonas has in an earlier script he wrote some time ago. And we're going to connect those. So that will be interesting, I think.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. And it's much like that sets the mind going and gets you to write and come up with new ideas. And this landscape where we live is full of it, because we live at the coastal area, and this were an area where the first people came in the Stone Age. And in the Bronze Age, there are a lot of carvings and so on.
Right.
So we're going to mix all of those things together. And it will be great, I think.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. You know, that takes all older things and really get into it, because there's so much history there that we have no idea about still to this day. We know some things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Over the years, people have learned the history behind some things, but I'm sure there's a lot we don't know still. That
so true.
It makes it an interesting subject to to work with.
When you get as far into the history as a Bronze Age, there's no written language. It's just the rock carvings. So your imagination is quite free.
Right.
Interpret anything you want to into the carvings. So
that's exactly it. I mean, if there's nothing proven, then there's really no wrong way to go with it. You know.
That's true.
You know, it's nobody can say, well, that's not factual. How do you know? We don't know anything. So have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I love that. And, you know, going back to like the thought forms thing, it's like, why couldn't that happen? Yeah. Because if the mind is such a powerful thing that we have people who are hypochondriacs, where they will convince themselves they're sick to the point where they start showing physical symptoms, it shows how powerful the brain is.
Yeah.
And if we're not using it to its full capacity, maybe we don't realize how much power we actually have if we believe in something enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that experiment, they started doing like seance things and asking that character they created if he's here, not twice, and it did.
Ooh.
And then over time, people started to see it because they spread it around the university with like flyers and things with this backstory, getting everybody to believe in this person.
Yeah.
Only they knew that it didn't exist.
Yeah.
But the students didn't. So they're all believing in it. And now they're starting to report seeing him. And they describe him to the people that fabricated his appearance. And they're like, that's exactly who we created. And it was very strange. I think it was the late 80s when they did this. And very strange story. The more you research it, the more bizarre it gets.
Yeah. And it's great hearing about all of this stuff that people, when they put their mind to it, you can fabricate things and actually get them to take on a life of their own. It's like there are many stories from this area to tell, and we have so much history to dig from. We want to tap into the Viking era and to the Bronze Age. As I told you, it's much, they know so little, so you're so free to create things.
Right.
And maybe let things get a life on their own.
Absolutely. And I think that's cool to be able to do that and kind of promote your heritage, and the history of your country, and take pride in that, and put it on display and fill in the blanks. What you don't know, just create something that makes sense to you and have fun with it and be creative. That's what I love about history with things like that, is it really lends itself to art. It lets you be creative and just have fun with it. And kind of even the things you do know, you could always do something where you're looking at it from their perspective rather than the outsider looking in, instead of looking at it like we're reading research in history, putting yourself in their perspective, how they probably saw it much different than we do.
Yeah.
From a historical sense, you know what I mean? They had their reasons for doing the things they did.
Yeah.
We obviously would probably view it a bit different being on the other side of it, but that in itself is creative, I think.
Yeah.
And could make for a lot of fun, kind of getting into that.
Yeah. And it's so good because we have good connections to the museums and so on, and they have rebuilt. We have a Viking village, and we have a Bronze Age village close by. So that does much for your imagination as well.
Absolutely.
It drives it.
Definitely. I'm taking up a lot of your time. I don't want to take up too much more, but we both love 80s horror movies, so it leads to I got one more question for you that it's always a fascinating answer I get from people. How do you feel about like some of the remakes? Are you for or against the idea of remaking 80s horror movies?
I think it's from movie to movie a bit. I can get quite agitated about some of the remakes, and some of them needs to be done.
True.
As well. So it differs from film to film, I think.
I agree with that completely. Whereas some people across the board absolutely hate remakes. The second they hear that it's a remake, they write it off as garbage. They hate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfair.
Yeah, it is, because it's a new work of art. Someone else interprets the story and makes it their own.
Exactly. And I think if something originally was great enough, I think that it's kind of a great thing that people want to kind of reinvent it a little bit just to introduce it to a younger demographic and keep it alive, keep it going. I mean, look at Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. I think Freddy Krueger has become like the new Dracula. I think that will live on forever. But yet people hated the remake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, some films need to be remade, but some, I think there's always going to be the holy grails.
Yeah.
Please don't touch this one.
Right.
That's very personal, I think. It's from person to person which ones those holy grails are.
Right. I mean, I totally respect that. I get that completely. I do agree.
Mm-hmm.
What gets me is people on social media that will be like, oh, they totally ruined the franchise by doing the remake. I'm like, how did they ruin it? You know, the original still exists. You can just go back and watch that. It's fine. You know, it's not like they replaced it with this remake.
No.
It's not out of circulation all of a sudden.
No, and sometimes I think a remake to the youth might be an awakening to the old one.
Right.
So that you go back. And if the remake hadn't been done, then maybe they wouldn't have seen the first one.
Absolutely. And I agree with that completely, because I know for myself, if I see something that I thought was pretty interesting and I find out it was a remake, then I want to go back, hunt down the original and see how it compares, and see if the remake was necessary or if the original was a lot better.
Yeah. Make your own opinion.
Right. So I think you're absolutely right with that it does kind of draw people back to the original if it was before their time or they just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is kind of a great thing. So it has its place. And I tend to tell people, just watch a remake and view it as its own thing. You don't try to compare it to the original or, just let it be its own thing.
So true.
Because like you said, it's a reimagining. It's not intended to replace the original.
No, and often it's a tribute to the old one as well.
Right. Or at least intended.
To the cast and to the producer and everyone.
Right. I mean, what do they say about imitation being the biggest form of flattery, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch a movie I absolutely hate and then go and recreate it. It's like, why would I bother if I hated it? You know what I mean?
No,
obviously you had to be a fan. And I think it's cool. It's just funny how stressed out people can get about. It's to me, it's as simple as, okay, if I'm not interested, I won't watch it. No, I don't get worked up about it.
That's interesting between me and Jonas, because Jonah's been working in the business for so long, so he's viewing every film as a work of art and has very much respect for the people making the movie. So even if he thinks the movie is not so good or it sucks, he will see it through anyway, because he's in respect and in awe of the people who made it. He knows how much work went into making the movie.
I love that. I feel like that does come with experience, because you have to have an appreciation for how much work they had to have put in, because you've done it, so even if it does fall short of expectations, having that respect for the effort that was put in, I think is really cool. And I think that's, kind of missed with a lot of people. A lot of people get that. And, I often say when somebody's like, oh, that movie is the worst thing I've ever seen, it's like, okay, well, show me yours.
Yeah.
Let me see your masterpiece, your Oscar winner.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
today it's so you consume film all the time. There's so much to choose from. Look at all of those series that are let out each year. People tend to forget how much work there is behind. Absolutely. Because a movie can take 1 year or it can take 3 years to complete. And that's quite a long time of your life.
Absolutely. And then it's really disheartening if it doesn't pay off the way you would have liked, because nobody else goes to work 3 years straight and not get paid,
So true.
Nobody else is going to go to their job for 3 years and not see a paycheck, so you have to love what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's important, But that's why I think I take it personal when I see somebody kind of trash something that someone else worked super hard on.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't like it, you can just not watch it. You don't have to be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You don't have to say things.
Exactly.
Just because the internet exists and gives you a platform to have an opinion doesn't mean you have to express it, you know?
It's true. You have to have the finger tip feel for it and when to be more adult about it.
Exactly. I mean, not everything is your hill to die on. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a dog in every fight. Sometimes it's okay.
No.
To say, you know what? It's not for me, but well done. You know, it's just that simple. But everybody has to, you know, try to be edgy and be a dick. You know, I hate.
There's always going to be those dogs pissing on the lamppost, right? You just have to shine anyhow.
I love that. That is so spot on. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's the best description I've ever heard. You know, because it's accurate as hell. There's always got to be at least one, you know, that has to be different. You know, everyone else loves something, so they have to be the one that stands out. And it's just so ridiculous. It seems childish, and it's kind of transparent at this point, where it's like you're just saying the opposite of what everyone else is because you don't want to seem like a bandwagoner. You know, sometimes things are just that good, man. You know, it's okay to acknowledge that it's that good. It doesn't make you a sheep, you know, like things are just that solid that you can't deny how good it is. So I get that, but yeah, there's always somebody, right, that has to be, you know, different for the sake of being different, and you know, just trying to be conscious. I usually
brush it up and say, "Get a life."
Exactly. It's like, you know, it's kind of funny. It's like, even with YouTube videos, if someone gives it a thumbs down, it's like, well, thanks for the view anyway. It still counts.
It does.
You can't unwatch it, you know. Oh man. Oh, I appreciate your time so much, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been very nice talking to you.
You too. You guys are both fascinating and super nice people, man. I love what you guys are working on. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
I'm super stoked about it. I'm promoting it actually every chance I get. I've had 3 of you on my show now to
hey.
When it comes out, I definitely want to see this damn monster that's twice my size. And thanks so much for coming on. You guys are welcome to come back anytime you want. So
thank you. We'll do it with pleasure.
Oh, awesome. Anytime you have something to promote, you know, just come by.
And if you're in Sweden, come by as well.
Oh, I plan to get out there at some point, so thanks. I would definitely do that. That would be cool. And hell, maybe if you do a part 2 of this movie, maybe after seeing it, I might have a little more confidence, and maybe I'll fight the sumbitch next time. You might be able to
great.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, bye.
So that was Helen Brunestål. I had a blast talking to her, man. She's so sweet, super interesting person, very kind and generous with her time. And we just had a great conversation about a lot of things. Just one of those natural conversations. You know, when you get along with somebody, you have great talks, man. And I really enjoyed that. So I hope you did too. Thanks for checking out the show. I'll catch your asses later, man.